Good evening all, welcome back to the channel, and thanks for clicking on my first ever moto vlog. So this is basically just a little bit of a verbal, I suppose, or an interview, just a monologue about my stuff, you know, thoughts going through my head. So you're going to get a lot of stuff that you probably wonder where it's all come from. So, but anyway, first vlog off the first cab off the rank is going to be just a bit of background about me. I know I touched on it in my 5 minutes in the shed. First ever 5 minutes in the shed, I sort of talked a little bit about my background and what sort of led me to be into the bikes I've got at the moment. So as I said back then, I started off as a kid on a Honda Z50 mini trail, and I derbed around on that for a little while till I was about 8 or 9 years old, and then got too big for that, I suppose, and then progressed up to a CT90 postie bike. So my dad went to a postie bike auction years ago and bought 4 CT90s. That 110 wasn't out back then. I'm guessing these would have been mid 70s models, would have been late 70s, early 80s by this stage. So I progressed up to one of them, locked in low range, and rode around like that as a 10, 11, 12 year old for a few years. And then my mum's family had farms, so progressed onto a 185 ag bike, and one of my cousins ended up with an XR 100. So that was the first taste of a dirt bike that actually had half decent suspension and brakes. So that was like I said, a mid 80s model, 86 model. Front drum brake, rear drum brake, but yeah, first bike with a clutch, 100cc single cylinder engine, and rod type suspension and a monoshock rear. But yeah, it was, for what it was a massive step up from the postie bikes and from the ag bikes that we were riding at the time. And then as I progressed into my teenage years, I sort of fell out of bikes a little bit, into BMX and skateboards and all the things that a teenager gets into, I suppose. And then I met a girl and did all the things with her for a long time, and the next taste of bikes come about. Her brother actually bought a bike, and he bought a CBR 250 four cylinder, what they used to call a little baby blade, and I had a couple of derbs around on that for a while. And then not long after, a heap of blokes from work had dirt bikes and road bikes, and I fell in with them, and then decided to buy a XR 400, knowing that the XR was a good bike. I end up with this XR 400, and I guess the title of this video is going to be about what not to do, because I've done quite a few of the things that you shouldn't do, and I can give you a bit of advice that an XR 400 is probably not the best thing when you haven't ridden for 15 years. Not the best beginner bike. Wasn't a bad machine at all, had, but just heavy, and probably had a little bit too much power for the skill level I was at, even though it was grossly underpowered. Really heavy, really hard to start and all that sort of stuff. So and then because that wasn't a big enough mistake, I then jumped into a first generation of the new school 450 4-stroke enduro bikes that were coming out then, and they were just even more power, but heaps better suspension, and heaps better brakes. So yeah, very much a easier bike to ride, but more power and a lot faster, so it got into more trouble. But that was an awesome bike. Ended up, long story short, I lost it. It got stolen, and at the time I had a road bike as well, and I ended up selling that when I had kids and fell out of bikes for a little while, and then got back into them again about 2 years ago. So bought another postie, and excuse me, bought this heap of junk that I've had in the shed for years, and bought a DR650. So obviously you can see the pattern here, brand new riders on bigger bikes, but DR650 again was a good bike, but also very heavy, and a lot of bike for a beginner. So yeah, my advice to anyone that's looking at getting into a dirt bike, or any bike really, but 250 sort of style of bike is what I'd be looking at. Something that's light and easier to start and easy to handle when you're learning, particularly off-road. Like on the road, that DR650 drives great, but off-road you feel every kilogram, and it's a lot of bike to turn and stop and change direction out in the bush. So yeah, I'm no expert. Like I said, I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, but I would, particularly until you get used to it, I would be starting off on something on the smaller side. Plenty of people buy 450s and 650s and 900cc road bikes as their first bike, but it's fraught with some danger, I guess. You do have to have your wits about you, but yeah, so you would have seen the video the other day of me with the new DR650. So a little bit about that. It's 2018 model, brand new to me. The guy that I bought it off bought it to do some adventure riding on, and like a lot of people, it ended up being something that sat around and he didn't get the use out of it that he thought he would. So yeah, I've picked that up. It's got 4,000 Ks on the clock. It's already got a BMW bash plate on it. It already has an aftermarket seat, because those DR650s are notoriously uncomfortable seat from the factory. They're really known for that, and they're also known for having pretty much terrible suspension right from the start from the factory. They also run, like the old XR did, the rod type suspension in them. The valving's all over the place. There's no adjusters on the clickers. No clickers on the front end, no adjustment at all in the front end, no real adjustment in the rear end. Everything was too soft. So yeah, the bloke that I bought it off was actually luckily about my size. He weighed 100 kilos and I weigh 100 kilos, so it went down to Vince Strang and got a new suspension setup to suit a 100 kilo rider. So it's now got single rate springs in the front. It's much heavier. They're 0.63 rate, as opposed to the stock ones are about 0.5 something. And I think that's in kilograms per meter or kilograms per inch or something. I'm not sure, but anyway, so they're quite a bit heavier than the stock ones. It's got cogen emulators in the front end now to take care of the valving. Heavier shock oil. The rear, it's got the same. It's got the Vince Strang valving pack, and it's got a heavier 8 kilo spring, and set up for, like I said, 100 kilo rider. I can take that out on the dirt trails and hit bumps at that at what I call full speed, so 60 k's an hour, nothing too radical, but yeah, I can hit bumps at that and it just soaks them up. Whereas when they're stock, you hit a bump and it bottoms the suspension out and spits you off the track and all sorts of stuff. So completely different bike to ride from a stock one. Yeah, so that's a good bit of kit, and I'm hoping to get out and about on that, and hopefully you guys get to see some of that in the near future coming up. And I've definitely got some videos coming up some accessories to put onto that. I want to put a long range fuel tank and some panniers on it, and I want to set her up to do a little bit of touring around the place. So yeah, the DR650 is the latest one. My postie bike you obviously would have seen on my channel. So that's a 1989 model, 6 volt. They didn't change the 12 volts batteries in them until 1993, so that's a 6 volt setup with the high and low range like a CT90 or an ag bike has. And so I've gone through that and put new bearings through part of it, and sorted out a heap of the wiring and the headlight, because the 6 volt regulators, the 6 volt headlight stator wiring or headlight stator supply is terribly in them, and they're known for over voltage. And so I've gone through a heap of videos, if you want to go back through my catalogue, about how I regulated the voltage for the headlight and how I've overcome that. When I bought that bike, it come with 2 new tyres, so front and rear new tyres, tubes. But just as a matter of course, I've gone through and replaced all the wearing parts, so all the bearings. I'll put a new chain on it when I get that far. I put a new battery in it. I've replaced all the headlight bulbs and all the bulbs in the entire bike, and replaced the luggage rack, and I've replaced the front crash bars with a set, different set. And I've what else have we done? I've ordered all the parts to go through the front end, as in shocks, fork seals, springs, new valves and pistons in the forks, and that'll get new fork oil as well. I've put new carby on it. I'm going to put a long range tank on that as well, and we will show you how I hook all the hosing and everything up, and the mounts for that. And we're going to turn that into a postie tourer. As most of you are probably aware, the posties, particularly a few years ago, and still a certain amount to this day, have a bit of a cult following, people taking them all around the place, all over the country. And I'm hoping that you're going to get to see me ride that postie around somewhere in in a touring type mode. Again, I'll run the same panniers and soft panniers on the back of that. This old girl, so this is an old CB250, which is a twin cylinder 4-stroke 250cc motorbike, and I sort of doing it up as a bit of a cafe racer, I suppose. It's definitely got the cafe racer ducktail on it, and I put a set of rear sets and a single megaphone, and just doing it up basically the way I always wanted one done up years ago. Not necessarily cafe racer style, but it is loosely based on that, I suppose. And I'm going to go through and I'll custom paint the frame and the tank, and hopefully get some of my old skills from years gone by back into that, and we'll put some stripes and stuff on the tank. And this one's getting a full rebuild, so every single thing on this bike I've been putting on it has been getting rebuilt as I go along. So I'm just up to the rear wheel. So obviously with current world conditions at the moment, I'm having trouble getting parts. It's definitely slowed the postie down, as in the progress of the videos, because I just haven't got the parts to do the repairs that I need to do on it. This one also, I've been waiting for a while on some parts to finish off the rear wheel conversion that I'll talk about in more detail, but that's a CB550 rear wheel I'm putting on. I run 7 750 CB 750 front, complete front end and front brakes and front wheel. So the rear wheel basically gives me a an 18-inch rear wheel to suit. And it's the reason we went with the 550 is the sprocket setup on that is more compatible with the 250 than the bigger 750 sprocket is. The wheel's too wide and the sprocket's not on the right plane to get the chain in the right spot. So yeah, 550 rear wheel going on that. And the 750 long termer, it's just basically a frame and stuff I picked up from an old bloke who was going to do it up and never really got anywhere with it. So it is missing a lot, and really when I got it, it was only 2 wheels, a frame and an engine. So every time I see the CB 750 part, I sort of buy that when I've got the money and stick it either to one side or stick it on the bike, and then hopefully one day I'm going to have enough parts to be able to put it back on the road. And I'll put it back on the road stock, and if I'm still riding bikes by then, I'll give it a bit of a ride. If not, you know, we'll see what happens with it. These two are basically just bought for the love of doing them up, not so much to ride them around. I don't think this thing's going to be any sort of commuter or any sort of bike that you'll ride very far. And now I've got the DR, it'll obviously take the duties of road bike slash touring bike for the interim anyway, and the postie will become a little local fun machine. And so yeah, that's a little bit about what I've been thinking about at the moment. Like I said, I've got a lot of ideas coming for videos. Some of them make them onto the screen, some of them don't. Some of them don't even make it out of the editor. So I hope you enjoy my videos, and I hope you enjoy hearing a little bit about what I've been up to. If anyone ever wants to get in contact with me, I'm more than happy to talk to you either on camera or off camera about what's going on. And if anyone wants to do a little 5 minutes in the shed segment, talk to me about what goes on in their shed, I'm happy to come and do that as well. So just shoot me an email and we'll go from there. But yeah, thanks for listening to my first monologue about what's going on with the bikes in my life, and hopefully you guys get to see a lot more action soon. Thanks for watching.